Have you ever experienced signing a contract and feeling confident that all the details were crystal clear, only to find out later that an unexpected term altered the course of the agreement? Let's assume that you have leased a retail space for a startup. Although the contract's express terms outline the terms and conditions such as rent amount, duration, and other conditions, you have discovered that implied terms or terms not specified in the contract overrode those explicit terms. You start to wonder how on earth something not specified in the contract overrides what is clearly expressed. But legally, this is possible. Sometimes what isn't written in black and white can hold just as much power as what is. This unexpected twist echoed today's case of Adaz and Castleway. You can find additional details of this legal case in the description below. Welcome back to my channel. I'm the Storytellawyer. I'm a lawyer and storyteller. The purpose of sharing legal stories is to show that law is both fun and essential for everyone. Be sure to click like, share, and subscribe for more legal stories and updates. The content in this video is meant for educational and entertainment purposes and not intended to provide legal advice of any kind. Storytellawyer will not be liable for actions taken based on the content provided on this video. Today I will tell you a story about an interesting Supreme Court case that revolves around the interpretation of a commercial contract. The Adaz and Castleway case highlights the importance of both expressed and implied terms in contract law. Whether verbal or written, a contract often contains more elements than what is explicitly said, stated, or documented. Let's find out how this is true. Our story begins with a services agreement between two companies, TPC and Castleway. The agreement was made with TPC appointing Castleway to provide services to TPC. Castleway was to be paid a service fee based on a percentage of TPC's profit. More profit meant more service fee paid. Just before the agreement was set to terminate, TPC made a $20 million charitable donation. That's right before the contract ended. There were no specific rules expressed in the contract on when and what business-related expenses can be spent. This $20 million donation significantly reduced TPC's profit for that financial year, which in turn reduced the service fee payable to Castleway. Castleway was devastated at TPC's conduct. Castleway took the matter to court. Both parties argued intensely. Castleway argued that the $20 million donation should not be considered when calculating TPC's profit, as it was not related to the normal business activities. On the other side, TPC argued that all business expenses or tax-deductible expenses, including the donation, should be considered when calculating the profit. This was true according to the expressed terms of the contract and the taxation law. Let's pause our story for a minute. Here's my detailed explanation of the subject matter before we continue the story. As expressly stated in the contract, TPC's argument was correct because profit is calculated after deducting tax-deductible expenses. However, there are implied terms in the contract, which was not written in black and white. To understand this case, we need to know the difference between expressed terms and implied terms in contract law. Expressed terms. These are the terms that are explicitly stated in the contract. In other words, expressed terms are clearly stated and agreed upon by all parties involved in a contract. Implied terms. These are terms that are not explicitly stated in the contract but are assumed to be included in the contract. Yes, assumed. Implied terms can be implied by law, by custom, or by the conduct of the parties. They fill in gaps to ensure the contract works as intended. Let me explain about both expressed and implied terms with an easier example. If you were to lease an apartment, expressed terms might state, the lessee should pay for water and electricity usage. Although not specified in the lease agreement, the implied terms might include the landlord's duty to ensure the apartment has basic amenities, like water and electricity. This is a common assumption based on the nature of the rental agreement. Another simple example for student viewers might be that John promises Mary that he will share half of the earnings if Mary assists him at the lemonade stand. This is an expressed term of a contract. it can be presumed that Mary makes a reasonable effort to be friendly to customers. This is an implied term of a contract. Should Mary drive customers away with her bad behavior, she would clearly be in breach of the contract. Now, back to our story. What did the court find? The primary judge found in favor of Castleway, stating that the service fee should only be reduced by expenses incurred in the ordinary course of TPC's business. The judge implied a term into the contract to give it business efficacy, meaning the contract should work effectively and fairly. The contract specified that property development services would be provided and that TPC would pay fees based on the profit generated. Right before the contract ended, TPC made a $20 million charitable donation, which significantly reduced TPC's profit and consequently reduced the service fee payable to Castleway. The judge looked at whether the $20 million donation just before the contract ended was an ordinary business expense. Was it an ordinary business expense? Yes, under the taxation law, a donation is an ordinary business expense. However, in this specific case, it wasn't. The court determined that it was a one-time, extraordinary expense. The judge implied a term that only expenses incurred in the ordinary course of TPC's business should be considered when calculating the profit for the service fee. This meant regular day-to-day business expenses, not extraordinary ones such as the donation to a charity. By implying this term, the judge ensured that the contract operated fairly. Without this implied term, TPC could reduce their profit to whatever profit they want it to be and reduce Castleway's fee by making a large, unusual expense which would not be fair. TPC was not happy with the primary judge's decision. TPC appealed the decision to the higher court, arguing that the contract's express terms should prevail and that all tax-deductible expenses should be considered under the contract. Donation is indeed a tax-deductible business expense. The Court of Appeal disagreed with the primary judge, saying this would go against a clear term that the service fee should be based on profit. However, the Court of Appeal also looked at whether Castleway should get a higher service fee. The legal reasoning behind the decision was that TPC had a duty to cooperate and give Castleway the full benefit of the contract. The Court of Appeal decided that TPC did not cooperate properly by making a donation that took away a big part of Castleway's earnings and reduced the benefits Castleway was supposed to get. The court emphasized that parties to a contract have a duty to cooperate and do all the things necessary to enable the other party to receive the benefit of the agreement. In 2 words, good faith. This case underscores the significance of both expressed and implied terms of a contract and their influence on the interpretation of agreements. Also, it sets an example of how good faith and fairness should be achieved. In practice, good faith means that parties should fulfill their contractual obligations in a manner that is consistent with the spirit of the agreement. Courts may imply a duty of good faith even if it is not explicitly stated in the contract. For example, if implied terms were disregarded in contract interpretation, relying solely on expressed terms could be detrimental to Castleway. Donating $20 million to a charity just before the contract ended would result in a significant reduction in the service fee payable to Castleway, which would be unfair. While Castleway suffers losses, TPC could gain both direct and indirect benefits at the expense of Castleway. Obviously, donation to a charity is amazing, and TPC will gain something out of it. Generally, companies make donations due to corporate social responsibility, increased employee engagement, positive community impact, and improved public relations. While TPC gains such benefits from making huge donations, what remains for Castleway? Let me ask you questions about contract interpretation. Do you think the implied term should play a significant role in interpreting contracts, or whatever written in black and white should matter? Leave comments below. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful stories on legal cases.